Magnesium, the pineal gland, and the epithalamus. We're going to talk about it in relation to why I think the calcification has been happening, both from those that we're wishing to control or manipulate, but also as a, let's say, inner working deficit that occurs when we're not productively utilizing our physical, mental, and emotional energies. And so we're going to flip this around. So we're probably going to divide this up into multiple parts because to try to be concise, I don't think I can get this in the time limit that is needed. So we're going to talk about this in layers. So the first layer is explaining magnesium is critical for melatonin production. Okay, pineal gland is situated in the epithalamus. Epithalamus is responsible for emotional processing, regulation, the pain and reward system, as well as mood. The epithalamus houses the gland, the pineal gland, but it has multiple functions in the impressions that we were talking about. We talked about this in previous videos that happen with the recorder at the root chakra, the impressions of the mental and emotional energy as it makes its way back up to the optic thalamus. And so we already talked about the nodes, or how I perceived the cathode and anode of the body, the pineal and the pituitary gland being critical functions of the receiver of the current, the DC, and electron flow. And so we have talked about this in relation to light and how light is sown and reaped, and I've talked about this in the rotation through both yearly and daily oscillations, so I won't get into that. But the interesting point is we talked about the pineal gland being the receiver of light. We know that is the inner sun, situated here where the epithalamus is, optic thalamus. And as that light comes in as physical energy, it is then reaped by the second fire sign, the triplicity, Leo. Magnesium phosphate is a salt associated with Leo, which is very important as to how this plays into pineal and the function of the pineal gland and the calcification. And so that magnesium phosphorus that is associated with Leo, it is important for firing of synapses, relaxation of smooth muscle, and of course motor nerves putting things in motion, using the electricity that's coming in pineal gland and putting it into motion. Okay, the third of the triplicity, that when it comes to fire or the movement of electricity, so the DC current, would be at the recorder. Now this is interesting because that is Sagittarius, and so it is the salt, well, I'll say salt, actually sand, is silica. Now why is that important? Because the fun fact with silica is we use that, or silicon, in our tech-based equipment and electronics as a semiconductor. Okay, it stores and processes information. It's also an insulator for nerves, so it makes sense that it's also tied into the fire triplicity. But the storing and processing, does that sound familiar? We talked about that in regards to memory and the impression into the matrix, which that triplicity then carries that information from the recorder back up to the optic thalamus for that energy to be processed and the cycle to repeat itself through the triplicity. We'll do a second video because we're going to talk about how that's been controlled and manipulated, and how our rotation through this, our utilization impairs that, and why the calcification happens.